Hello everyone, I welcome all you in this channel. In the last video, we have discussed about a little introduction of the poet and the poem. So in this video, we are going to explain one by one line of the poem. On ear to noises to and trance right the tide that ramps against the shore with a flood or a fall, low lull off or off roar, frankly there while moon shall veer and wend, apt hand of land, I hear the lark ascend, his restlessly winded new skinned shore, in clips of carp of filled windswear and pure and pale music till noons to spill more spent. So this is a sonnet and written in the 14 lines. It is also divided into octave and sextet. So now we will discuss about the octave of the poem. Here in this stanza, uh, while while walking near the sea, the poet hears two sounds which make a deep impression on him, largely to stress the contrast with the frail crumbling town. He calls them too old to end. On his right is the sea, which at high tide bounds wildly against the shore. At high tide, the sea continuously roars, while at ebb, when it is over a quarters of a miles away, there is a low lulling sound in the distance. As long as the moon phase change and its orbits the earth, the sea will be found repeatedly visiting the shore. The moon is the moon's orbit of the earth is the main cause of the tides. On the poet's left, about the land, he hears the lark, which sings as it ascends until it is just visible as speak against the sky. So here in the Octava, the poet describes here the poet contrasted between two sounds, the sea and the skylark, and he says that Hopkins was intrigued by the bird's ability to ascend in full songs time after time during the day. It also sings while descending. The skylark's songs ever the same seems to follow a musical score which may be compared to a skein of a wool that is successfully unwound as he shines in the sky and rewound when he returns to earth, so that each song is as fresh as the one before. This score the skylark seems to wail off the winds of his throat in a wild ecstasy. The skylark pours out music without efforts, and yet he fills his fresh songs with continuous efforts till he has spilled and spent all, and there is nothing left. He refreshes and sings again. This goes on for hours. Now we come on the sextet. How these two seem, this shallow and frail town, how ring right out our sordid turbid time, being pure, with life's pride and cared for, calm, have lost that cheer and charm of earth's vast crime. Our make and making break are breaking down to man's fast dust, drain fast towards man's first slime. So, in these lines, the poet says that the two natural sounds of the sea and the sky are putting to shame this town of rail, where life is shadow and devoid of vitality. The sounds of nature, because of their purity, rise far above the sordid and confused human sounds of the town. The poet says that we human beings are supposed to be the pride of creations and the honored lords of the whole world. However, our conditions has now worsened. We have now lost the joy and charm of the earth when all things were in their prime. Now, the statics and dynamic aspects of our being are in process of decay and disintegrations. The process will lead us to the states of dust, which awaits us in death and which recalls man's original state of slime. Our ends will thus rejoin our beginning. We shall end as we began. We are witnessing not progress but retrogressions. Hopkins have looked nostalgically at the developing retrogressions. He does not enter into the life of industrial society. He finds it wanting. He merely stands at a distance and condemns.